Haunted Chronicles presents 3 Creepy True School Lockdown Stories. Story 1: The Substitute Who Wouldn't Unlock the Door. It happened in the fall of 2013 at a small middle school in Indiana. The building was old, long hallways, humming radiators, and that faint smell of pencil shavings mixed with bleach. 8th period English. Mrs. Carter was out sick that day, and a substitute had taken her place. A quiet woman who introduced herself as Mrs. Lane. She looked harmless enough. Grey cardigan, thick glasses, hair tied back in a bun. But something about her unsettled the kids. She didn't smile much. And when she wrote her name on the board, her hand trembled slightly, as though she wasn't used to the chalk. The bell rang, and the day moved on like any other. Then, at 2:17 p.m., the intercom buzzed. A voice, calm but mechanical, echoed through the halls. "This is a lockdown. This is not a drill." The room fell instantly silent. Students turned toward the teacher, waiting for instruction. Mrs. Lane didn't panic. She walked to the door, twisted the handle, and froze. "It's already locked," she murmured. "Already?" one boy asked. She didn't answer. She turned away and began whispering to herself, pacing near the window. One of the girls, Heather, remembered hearing her repeat something. Names. Eleanor? James? Thomas? None of them were in their class. The minutes crawled by. The air felt too still, the silence heavy. Then came the sound. 3 knocks, slow and even. On the classroom door, Heather gasped. "That's Mrs. Carter's knock," she whispered. "She always knocks like that." Mrs. Lane stiffened. "No one move," she said quietly. A shadow passed across the narrow window. The handle rattled once, twice. Then a voice whispered through the crack, "Let me in." Mrs. Lane's voice trembled. "He's not supposed to be back yet," she said. To no one in particular. The kids didn't know what she meant. They just stayed quiet, some of them crying silently. 40 minutes passed before the all-clear signal came over the intercom. Police began clearing classrooms one by one. But when they reached room 214, they found the door locked from the inside, and no one answered. When officers finally forced it open, the room was empty. No students, no teacher. Security footage from that hallway showed nothing. Every door was visible, except for one blank section of wall where room 214 should have been. The next morning, the janitor doing rounds found the door back in place. Inside, stacked chairs, neat desks, the faint smell of chalk, and on the blackboard, written in shaky white letters, "Drills are for the living." Story 2: The announcement that never happened. In March 2019, Kyle Patterson, a high school senior in Michigan, stayed late to finish an assignment after detention. The school was almost completely empty. Just the sound of the old clock in the hall ticking like a heartbeat. At 6:43 p.m., he heard it. "Lockdown initiated. Repeat. Lockdown initiated." The voice came over the loudspeaker. Perfectly calm, perfectly routine. But it shouldn't have been possible. There was no one in the office. Kyle froze. He peeked into the hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting long shadows that reached like fingers. He told himself it was a system glitch. But then he heard footsteps. Not rushed, not scared. Just steady, deliberate footsteps echoing toward him. He ducked into the janitor's closet and shut the door. The footsteps stopped right outside. Through the crack beneath the door, a shadow passed. Then the intercom crackled again. "They're already inside." The voice wasn't the principal's. It sounded deeper, wet. almost like someone was speaking too close to the microphone. Kyle held his breath. For almost 10 minutes, there was only silence. Then faint dragging, like someone pulling a chair across the floor. A door opened, then shut. Finally, the PA buzzed one more time. Lockdown ended. Resume normal activity. Kyle waited, then stepped into the hall. Every classroom door was slightly open, just an inch. Enough to see darkness inside. The hall clock had stopped. When he reached the exit, the front doors were chained shut. He panicked and ran to a window near the science lab. Outside, the parking lot was empty, except for one car with its engine running. His own, keys still in his pocket. He sprinted home, shaking. When he told his mother, she looked at him in disbelief. Kyle, you couldn't have been there. The power's been out all week. They closed the school. The next morning, police escorted him back to collect his bag. They found the chains, rusted, old, and a janitor's closet covered in dust. Inside sat a folding chair and a radio, still hissing faint static. The only words on the recording log came from 6:43 p.m. The same time as Kyle's call. The file name simply read, Speaker 643, Patterson.wave. When detectives played it, the first voice said, Lockdown initiated. Then Kyle's own voice followed. They're already inside. Story 3. The last text from room 2, 09 October 2015. It was just another school day in a quiet Ohio town, until a man was reportedly seen near the playground, carrying something metallic. The principal's voice came over the intercom. This is a lockdown. This is not a drill inside room. 209. Erin Walters, 13 years old, sat shaking next to her best friend under a table. Their teacher, Miss Hudson, had locked the door and turned off the lights. Erin texted her mom, Someone's in the hall. We're hiding. Love you? Her mom responded instantly. Stay quiet. Police are on the way. 5 minutes later, another message. He's trying doors. Ours just rattled. Then, he's outside our door. After that, silence. When police cleared the building an hour later, everyone in room 209 was safe. No intruder was ever found. But when detectives reviewed Erin's phone, they found one unsent message drafted 5 minutes after her last text. It said, It's okay. He found me. Its dad, Erin's father, had died in a car accident exactly 1 year earlier. On the same day, at the same time, her mother told officers something even stranger. At 12:41 p.m., while the school was on lockdown, her dead husband's number, long disconnected, had called her phone once. The ringtone had played 3 notes of his favorite song before cutting off. When police checked hallway footage outside room 209, every frame was empty, except one. At 12:41, the timestamp flickered and the lights dimmed. In that 6-second window, a figure appeared beside the door. Kneeling, head bowed, hand on the handle. The shape looked exactly like Erin's father. When they enhanced the image, his lips were moving. Experts agreed. He was saying 3 words. She's safe now. Some stories stay buried in school archives, whispered about by students who still walk those halls. Others never make it to the news. Too strange, too unexplained. Tonight, you heard 3 stories that began as drills and ended as something else entirely. If this episode kept you awake tonight, like, comment, and subscribe to Haunted Chronicles. Because every nightmare starts with something someone swore was true. Stay aware, stay alive, and remember, when you hear the words, this is a lockdown, don't assume it's a drill.